She was a voice that defined a generation, a ghost story whispered on the humid Mississippi air. She wrote and produced her own revolution, a woman in a man's world who refused to be told what to sing or how to sing it. Then, she vanished. For over 40 years, Bobbie Gentry has been country music's greatest and most enduring mystery. Her silence has been a blank canvas where we've painted our own theories of burnout, heartbreak, and a simple desire for privacy. But what if I told you a shocking new story is tearing through the internet? A claim that has fans and critics alike holding their breath? A story that says, at 82 years old, Bobbie Gentry has finally broken her silence. And that she's ready to expose the secrets, the lies, and the quiet betrayals of country music's most sacred institution, the Grand Ole Opry. The whispers have turned into a roar online. They claim she's ready to reveal the backroom deals that defined careers, the blacklisting that silenced rebels, and the real, untold reason she walked away at the very height of her fame. The story has gone viral, igniting a firestorm of speculation. But could it possibly be true? Could the woman who so completely and masterfully disappeared from public view be stepping back into the light for one final, explosive revelation? We're going to investigate the story that has everyone talking. We'll trace the origins of this bombshell claim and uncover the truth behind the rumors. What really happened to Bobbie Gentry? What secrets did she take with her when she left the spotlight? And is she truly ready to share them? The answers might just shake the very foundations of what we thought we knew about the girl from Chickasaw County and the Nashville empire she challenged. To really get why this supposed expose is such a big deal, you have to understand the woman at its center. Bobbie Gentry was not just another singer. She was a phenomenon. Born Roberta Lee Streeter in rural Mississippi, her early life was defined by the very landscape she would later immortalize in her music. Her grandparents reportedly traded a milk cow for a piano, and on that instrument, a young Bobbie began to translate her world into song. She was a philosophy student at UCLA, a mind as sharp and complex as her lyrics. When she arrived at Capitol Records in 1967, she wasn't looking for stardom, she was a songwriter. She only sang on the demo for Ode to Billie Joe, because it was cheaper than hiring a session vocalist. And with that one, haunting performance, everything changed. Ode to Billie Joe wasn't a song, it was a 4.5-minute Southern Gothic novel. It was a moody, atmospheric, and deeply unsettling story of a family's casual indifference to a local boy's suicide. In the summer of 1967, it was an unstoppable force, knocking the Beatles' All You Need Is Love from the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It was a cultural earthquake. The whole world was asking two questions: what did Billie Joe and his girlfriend throw off the Tallahatchie Bridge, and why did he jump? Gentry, with a wisdom that would define her career, always refused to answer, insisting the mystery wasn't the point. The point, she said, was the song's chilling commentary on the unconscious cruelty and casual nature of tragedy, perfectly captured in the line, "Pass the biscuits, please." The song earned her Grammys for Best New Artist and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, and it launched her into the stratosphere. But what truly made Bobbie Gentry a legend was what came next. In an era when female artists were often just pretty faces singing songs written and produced by men, Gentry took control. She was one of the very first female country artists to write and produce her own material. She was a visionary. Her 1968 album, The Delta Suite, was a deeply ambitious concept album, a musical tapestry of her Mississippi roots that she composed and arranged. While she worked with talented session musicians and arrangers like Jimmy Haskell and Shorty Rogers, the vision was entirely hers. She was blending country with blues, soul, and pop in a way no one had ever heard before. She wasn't just a singer-songwriter, she was a businesswoman. She was a producer, a choreographer, and an artist who reportedly painted the covers for her own albums. Her hit, Fancy, a song she proudly called her strongest statement for women's lib, told the unflinching story of a woman using her looks to escape poverty, a narrative so daring it later became an anthem for Reba McEntire. Bobbie Gentry wasn't just in the music business, she was building her own empire, on her own terms. She was independent, she was in control, and she was utterly herself. And in the tightly controlled world of Nashville, that made her a very interesting figure. Just as quickly as she appeared, she was gone. Her vanishing act is as much a part of her legend as Ode to Billie Joe. It wasn't a slow fade, it was an abrupt and total stop. After a decade of hits, acclaimed albums, a successful BBC TV series, and a trailblazing, multi-million-dollar Las Vegas residency she wrote and produced, Bobbie Gentry just walked off stage and never came back. Her final public performance was a quiet one. On May 10, 1981, she appeared on a TV special, an all-star salute to Mother's Day, with her own mother in the audience. A year later, on April 30, 1982, she attended the Academy of Country Music Awards. After that night, Roberta Lee Streeter became a ghost. There was no press release, no farewell tour. She just stopped. Phone calls from producers went unreturned. Interview requests were denied. For an artist of her stature, the silence was deafening. It was a disappearing act so complete it has fueled over 40 years of speculation. Where did she go? Why did she leave? The theories have swirled for decades. Some believe she became a recluse, haunted by fame. Others whispered of heartbreak after a series of short-lived marriages. A more practical theory suggested she'd simply grown tired of the industry. Having made her fortune through shrewd business decisions, she had the financial freedom to walk away and raise her son, reportedly named Tyler, far from the public eye. Journalists have spent years trying to find her. In 2016, a reporter believed he'd found her living in a gated community, not far from the very Tallahatchie Bridge she made famous. He thought he had her on the phone for 13 seconds before she politely denied it and hung up. This profound commitment to privacy is what makes the claim of an exposé so earth-shattering. Why, after 4 decades of determined silence, would she choose now to speak? And why would her target be the Grand Ole Opry, the mother church of country music? The Grand Ole Opry is more than a stage, it's the heart of Nashville, a symbol of country music tradition. Since 1925, membership has been seen as the genre's highest honor. The list of members is a who's who of country royalty: Patsy Cline, Dolly Parton, Garth Brooks. For millions, the Opry is sacred ground, but beneath the surface lies a more complicated history. The Opry has always been a gatekeeper with rules, both spoken and unspoken. And the stories of artists clashing with the Opry are legendary. They speak to a tension that's always existed in country music: tradition versus rebellion. Perhaps the most famous exile is Hank Williams. His membership was revoked in 1952 for his unreliability due to alcoholism. He died just months later, forever locked out of the institution he helped build. Johnny Cash was famously banned in 1965 after a frustrated on-stage tantrum where he smashed the footlights with his microphone stand. He was eventually welcomed back, but the incident became a cornerstone of his outlaw persona. The list goes on. Jerry Lee Lewis's 1973 debut is infamous. He ignored his allotted time, played rock and roll hits, and used profane language on the live broadcast. While not formally banned, he wasn't invited back for years, a clear message from the establishment. These stories paint a picture of an institution that demands respect, and this is where the story of Bobbie Gentry takes a curious turn. Despite her monumental impact, despite being inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2020, Bobbie Gentry is not, and has never been, a member of the Grand Ole Opry. There's never been an official reason given. Was she ever invited? Did she turn it down? Or was this fiercely independent woman who controlled her own career seen as too much of a maverick for the family atmosphere the Opry cultivated? Her music delved into dark, complex themes. Poverty, hypocrisy, sexuality, a far cry from the wholesome tunes often favored on the Opry stage. This long-standing question of her relationship with the Opry is the fertile ground where the current rumors have taken root. So, where did this bombshell claim, that Bobbie Gentry is finally exposing the Opry, actually come from? The trail leads, as it so often does, to the wild west of the internet. A faceless YouTube documentary recently appeared with the explosive title, At 82, Bobbie Gentry finally exposes the Opry. The video promises shocking revelations, rare letters, and private recordings. It paints a picture of an artist who wasn't just ignored by Nashville, but actively blacklisted. The video alleges Gentry was pressured to sign away creative rights and that her retirement was a forced exile for refusing to sing pretty and stay quiet. The narrative is powerful, compelling, and perfectly tailored to her mystique. It's been shared across social media and repackaged into countless other posts, but here is the critical question: is any of it true? After a thorough investigation of news archives, music journalism databases, and official sources, the answer is a resounding and unequivocal no. There are no credible, verifiable sources to support this claim. The leaked letters and private recordings have not been published or authenticated by any reputable news organization. There are no named sources, no on-the-record confirmations from anyone. The entire narrative appears to be a work of speculative fiction, an internet rumor that has taken on the guise of a factual exposé. Bobbie Gentry, as far as any credible evidence shows, remains in her self-imposed, dignified silence. She has not broken it to expose the Grand Ole Opry or anyone else, but the fact that this rumor went viral, that so many people were so quick to believe it, tells us something important. It speaks to a deeper truth. The footlights with his microphone stand. He was eventually welcomed back, but the incident became a cornerstone of his outlaw persona. The list goes on. Jerry Lee Lewis's 1973 debut is infamous. He ignored his allotted time, played rock and roll hits, and used profane language on the live broadcast. While not formally banned, he wasn't invited back for years, a clear message from the establishment. These stories paint a picture of an institution that demands respect, and this is where the story of Bobbie Gentry takes a curious turn. Despite her monumental impact, despite being inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2020, Bobbie Gentry is not, and has never been, a member of the Grand Ole Opry. There's never been an official reason given. Was she ever invited? Did she turn it down? Or was this fiercely independent woman who controlled her own career seen as too much of a maverick for the family atmosphere the Opry cultivated? Her music delved into dark, complex themes. Poverty, hypocrisy, sexuality, a far cry from the wholesome tunes often favored on the Opry stage. This long-standing question of her relationship with the Opry is the fertile ground where the current rumors have taken root. So, where did this bombshell claim, that Bobbie Gentry is finally exposing the Opry, actually come from? The trail leads, as it so often does, to the wild west of the internet. A faceless YouTube documentary recently appeared with the explosive title, At 82, Bobbie Gentry finally exposes the Opry. The video promises shocking revelations, rare letters, and private recordings. It paints a picture of an artist who wasn't just ignored by Nashville, but actively blacklisted. The video alleges Gentry was pressured to sign away creative rights and that her retirement was a forced exile for refusing to sing pretty and stay quiet. The narrative is powerful, compelling, and perfectly tailored to her mystique. It's been shared across social media and repackaged into countless other posts, but here is the critical question: is any of it true? After a thorough investigation of news archives, music journalism databases, and official sources, the answer is a resounding and unequivocal no. There are no credible, verifiable sources to support this claim. The leaked letters and private recordings have not been published or authenticated by any reputable news organization. There are no named sources, no on-the-record confirmations from anyone. The entire narrative appears to be a work of speculative fiction, an internet rumor that has taken on the guise of a factual exposé. Bobbie Gentry, as far as any credible evidence shows, remains in her self-imposed, dignified silence. She has not broken it to expose the Grand Ole Opry or anyone else, but the fact that this rumor went viral, that so many people were so quick to believe it, tells us something important. It speaks to a deeper truth. The idea of a powerful, authentic artist being chewed up and spit out by the industry machine is not a fantasy. The viral video might be fake, but the sentiment behind it is very real. It taps into a legitimate suspicion about the dark side of fame, and in that sense, while Bobbie Gentry hasn't given an exposé, her life story is the exposé. Before we dive into that real story, if you love uncovering the truth behind country music's greatest legends, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. The truth of Bobbie Gentry's departure isn't a single, explosive confrontation. It's a slow burn, the story of a brilliant artist who saw the system for what it was and made a calculated choice to leave it behind. Her career was a quiet rebellion, and her disappearance was its final act. The first front in her silent war was for creative control. Gentry was an anomaly. She wasn't just a voice, she was the architect of her sound. She once said, "I produce my own records. A woman doesn't stand much chance in a recording studio." That statement reveals the uphill battle she faced. While the label might have wanted to market her as a sultry pin-up, she was delivering complex, literary albums like the Delta Suite and the deeply personal, entirely self-written Patchwork. Those records weren't commercial blockbusters like Ode to Billie Joe was. They were challenging, and they didn't fit neatly into the radio-friendly Nashville sound. She didn't fit in any of their boxes, so she built her own world. That world found its ultimate expression on the stages of Las Vegas. Gentry's move to Vegas is often misunderstood as a decline. In reality, it was the pinnacle of her power. In an environment she could completely control, she became a top headliner. She created, produced, and had oversight on her own lavish stage productions, from choreography to stage design. These weren't just concerts. They were theatrical events. She had complete artistic and financial command, earning a fortune. In Vegas, she didn't have to answer to record executives. She was the boss. This brings us to the second, crucial element of her departure, her business acumen. Bobbie Gentry was an incredibly savvy businesswoman. She understood the fleeting nature of fame and prepared for a life after it. She invested her earnings wisely in real estate and was reportedly a part owner of the Phoenix Suns basketball team for a time. She built a financial fortress that gave her the one thing most artists never get: true independence. The freedom to walk away, and finally, there was the most personal reason, the desire for a private life. The constant glare of the spotlight took its toll. She was a private person thrust into global fame. After the birth of her son in the late 70s, it's widely believed her main motivation for disappearing was to provide him with a normal life, shielded from the celebrity that had defined her own young adulthood. She had the money, she had the will, and she chose her family and her peace over fame. When you put these pieces together, the picture becomes clear. Bobbie Gentry's retirement wasn't a surrender, it was a victory. She didn't get pushed out of the industry, she outsmarted it. She saw the music business for the rigged game it often was, a game that demanded compromise and conformity. And she decided she would rather not play. She refused to be a tragic figure. She refused to burn out. Instead, she took her talent, her money, and her dignity, and built a private life of her own design. Her silence for the past 40 years isn't a sign of defeat. It is the ultimate power move. So, has Bobbie Gentry, at 82, finally exposed the Grand Ole Opry? No. The viral claims are internet fiction, a myth built on legitimate questions. There is no evidence she has broken her long and dignified silence, but investigating this rumor has led us to a deeper truth. We don't need a tell-all interview to understand Bobbie Gentry's critique of the music industry. Her life is the critique. Her career is the evidence. Her silence is the testimony. She showed the world that a woman could write, produce, and control her own destiny in an industry designed to prevent it. She built an empire on her own terms, and then, when the cost of fame outweighed its benefits, she had the courage and foresight to walk away with her fortune and her integrity intact. She didn't let the machine break her, she simply quit the machine. The legend of Bobbie Gentry isn't defined by her disappearance, but by the fierce independence that prompted it. She left us with a body of work that remains as mysterious and brilliant as the day it was recorded. And she left us with one final, lingering mystery, more compelling than what was thrown from the Tallahatchie Bridge. In a world that demands constant exposure, what does it mean to truly own your story? Perhaps it means knowing when the story has been told, and that the most powerful thing left to say is nothing at all.